Sometimes you just don't feel like trying. Too many politicians lying. Too many hungry babies crying. Too many random bullets flying. Too much time spent in struggle. Too many little kids in trouble. Too many cities gone to rubble. Too many people talking double. This can't be our destination. This could be a better nation. Time to set the big horse racing. Need a brand new generation. Trains are leaving from the station. Me, I got no reservation. This could be a celebration now. Now. Situations changing fast. Too much plastic, too much trash. Too many smokestacks spewing ash. Too many people with no cash. Too much waste and not enough water. Too many abandoned sons and daughters. Too many lost and hopeless feelings. Too many low-down, shady dealings. This can't be our destination. This could be a better nation. Time to set the big horse racing. Need a brand new generation. Trains are leaving from the station. Me, I got no reservation. This could be a celebration now. Now. Too many people looking down. Too many closed up factory towns. Too much high class propaganda. Too much sadness in this land of dreams that once could all come true. Now it's down to me and you. Tell me what you're gonna do. Tell me what you're gonna do now. This can't be our destination. This could be a better nation. Time to set the big horse racing. Need a brand new generation. Trains are leaving from the station. Me, I got no reservation. This could be a celebration now. Now. Now, now, now. A celebration now. Now.
How's that? Good? Okay. I'm Rosalie Paul. I'm here from Greater Brunswick PeaceWorks. I want to just let you know that we're here today as part of a global day of resistance. We resist the passage of a federal budget that gives over 50% of our discretionary dollars to the military. The budget of the United States reflects our nation's care for the common good of her people. At its best, a budget is a moral document, and so we are dismayed and frightened by what our leadership sees as priorities. We gathered to share our concern for our country at a time when Martin Luther King's words continue to hold enormous power. And I quote, "A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on social uplift approaches spiritual death," unquote. Can we turn this ghastly tide? He also said we as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. Can we do that? Can we do that for our planet and for our children and our grandchildren? Let us see now, William Penn said all those years ago, what love can do. We face three interconnected crises. Until we see how they are linked, we won't have the tools to solve them. The climate crisis, the crisis of funding social needs, and most profoundly, the crisis of militarism. As part of our resistance today, we present speakers who can eloquently raise our awareness. We urge the media to give this airtime and print space. We urge all of you hearing this to find your way to whatever kind of activism is yours to offer. This rally is presented in honor of our longtime friend and activist Sally Breen, who couldn't be with us today, but whose spirit and energy gave this rally shape. Thank you, Sally. And the first speaker from Veterans for Peace, Richard Clement.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Richard Clement, and I am president of the Tom Sturdivant chapter of Maine Veterans for Peace. This is the founding chapter of Veterans for Peace, which was started here in Maine in 1985. Today we have 130 chapters across the U.S. and 5 international chapters. We have a national office in St. Louis. Our organization is dedicated to building a culture of peace, healing the wounds of war and exposing the true costs of war, which are a far cry from just monetary. To achieve these goals, we are pledged to do so with nonviolent means. Let me tell you a few of the things VFP is doing locally, nationally, and internationally. 2 weeks ago, we partnered with the Elders Group and the First Parish UU Church here in Portland. On the 50th anniversary of Reverend King's speech, Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break Silence, we remembered the groundbreaking speech by reading it aloud. I am sure many in attendance in the church felt a little disheartened that his words could have been spoken yesterday, that so little has changed in those 50 years since he wrote the speech and the 49 years since he was assassinated. As he wrote, the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government, the giant triplets of racism, extreme materialism, and militarism. Another local project of our chapter is producing an 18-month calendar. Each month we'll have a portrait of an American activist. These portraits come from the work of Maine artist Robert Shetterly, who has painted the great series titled Americans Who Tell the Truth. These calendars will be given free to guidance counselors in high schools across Maine. They will expose students to common folk who have stood up, spoken up, and made this a better country with their actions. Other chapters are actively engaging and informing the public about drone warfare and the predominant killing of civilians with sudden death from the sky. They gather and protest outside Creech Air Force Base in Nevada and Hancock Air Base in New York and get arrested when they step over the line. Others have created a campaign called Veterans Challenge Islamophobia. All veterans who agree that bigotry and religious intolerance must be challenged are welcome. Muslims are our friends and allies, not our enemy. Internationally, VFP members have traveled to Jeju Island in South Korea, where a deep water port has been built, and Okinawa, Japan, where a major expansion of a base is underway. Both of these military sites have been overwhelmingly opposed by the local populations, but to no avail. Our members have been warmly received and welcomed as we stand in solidarity to American military expansion on foreign soil. The U.S. Peace Memorial Foundation awarded its 2016 Peace Prize to Veterans for Peace. Our national president commented, for over 30 years, Veterans for Peace has been the only organization that has consistently led the peace movement in an effort to abolish war, eventually eliminate nuclear weapons, expose the real costs of war, and stand in solidarity with veterans and victims of war, and to keep our nation from interfering overtly and covertly into the affairs of other nations. We oppose the president's obscene $54 billion plan to increase Pentagon spending. The U.S. already spends about 3 times the amount of any other country spends on their defense, and more than 9 times the next 9 countries combined. This colossal tax waste comes at the expense of such areas as environmental protection and education. Our tax money to fund endless wars will only make the rich richer. The rest of us get poorer by each generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And now we hear from Devon Grayson Wallace, who's a member of the Peace Action Maine Board.
Even closer? All right. Good afternoon. My name is Devon Grayson Wallace. I am 26 years old. I am originally from Long Island, New York, and I moved to Maine 3 years ago to build an adult life here. I am grateful to be here, and I love this state. Every time I go home to Long Island to visit with my family, the rush and the hustle and the bustle make me even more grateful that I get to return to up here. However, I am only able to live here and work here thanks to federal assistance, all types of federal assistance. Social Security helped my dad raise my younger brother and I when my mom died when I was 6. Federal Pell Grants and relatively low-interest loans enabled me to earn a college degree without the crippling student debt that keeps many of my peers living at home. Knowing my widower grandfather, my mother's father, has a home in a senior community thanks to a federal Section 8 housing voucher gives me the peace of mind to feel like it's okay that I live 4 hours away, as long as I call every few days, of course. When Hurricane Sandy hit Long Island, my dad and my younger brother both lost water and electricity for a week, and FEMA was driving around the neighborhood handing out bottled waters and checking on residents. I am grateful to live in a country where we have these programs, but I know that I and my family are so fortunate relative to many of my peers, relative to many other families, relative to people of all ages in this state and around this country. And now I work at the University of Southern Maine and am more than happy to pay into Social Security, and even more so to pay federal taxes so others can have help meeting their immediate needs and help moving forward with their lives, the way that I've been able to do. However, we as a country don't even come close to meeting everyone's needs or helping every person who wants to go to college graduate without unmanageable debt payments. I don't think I need to go into details. I think everyone knows someone, most likely many someones, who are not able to have the kind of freedom and peace of mind that I have been so fortunate to have. And that is why I am downright furious we spend such a disproportionately high amount of our federal budget on the Pentagon, amassing weapons and making war. According to the National Priorities Project breakdown of federal spending, in 2016, for every federal tax dollar that I paid, and everyone in this country paid, 23.4 cents went to the Pentagon. That doesn't even count the war spending that goes on the national version of a credit card that we haven't even begun to be paying back yet. Less than 3 cents on each of my federal tax dollars went to education, where my Pell Grants came from, and about 2 cents went to housing and community investments, which includes not just my grandfather's housing assistance and the FEMA aid that helped my little brother and my dad a couple years back, but other programs that are especially critical here in Maine, like low-income housing energy assistance that helps low-income Mainers keep warm in the winter. And all this when the U.S. spends $600 billion a year on the Pentagon, which is as much as the next 7 countries in the world combined. Setting aside my personal moral objections to militarization and making war and intellectual arguments about whether any of this even makes us safer, I find this wrong. Before I moved to Maine, I worked as a lobbyist on federal budget issues for the Friends Committee on National Legislation, a Quaker lobby in the public interest. And among the ins and outs that I learned there on Capitol Hill, I learned that our best, maybe our only resource to turning this around and investing in our greatest strength, our people, is to take the opportunity we all have to talk to our legislators. So that's something that I will be doing, even more so in the next couple years, and I encourage each of you to do the same.
Thank you, Devon. And now we hear from Joseph de Rivera, who's also on the Peace Action Maine board.
If we're going to stop global warming, we have to cut the Pentagon budget. Part of that's pretty obvious. We've got a finite amount of money. And if we spend it on the Pentagon, we can't spend it on the Environmental Protection Agency. On the other hand, if we audit the Pentagon and cut the waste that's there, that money could go to the Environmental Protection Agency, to the research we need to stop global warming. And I want to talk, I think that's obvious, but I want to discuss 3 other reasons why we have to cut the Pentagon budget if we're going to stop global warming. The first of these is that the Pentagon is the world's largest contributor to CO2. People don't realize how much the Pentagon contributes to global warming. Forgive me for giving you a few figures here. The U.S. military usage is 320,000 barrels of oil a day. That doesn't include the fuel consumed by contractors leased to private facilities or in the production of weapons. In 1 year, the Pentagon spent over $17 billion on oil. It emitted more than 70 million tons of CO2. And that doesn't include what was emitted in our overseas bases. Yet this information isn't readily available because by law and under the UN framework on climate change, military emissions are not counted toward our global CO2 footprint. It's all masked. I'm just talking about ordinary military operations. If we want to talk about wars, it gets even more sobering. The Iraq War alone was responsible for at least 141 million tons of CO2. To put that in some context, that equals the emissions of 25 million cars in that one war. But there's a second reason why we have to cut the military budget. The international community, in order to stop global warming, nations have agreed to invest billions of dollars in the infrastructure that's needed, particularly in underdeveloped countries, so that they can invest in alternative energy rather than burn coal and contribute to CO2. That requires billions of dollars from governments. We're behind in our pledges. We don't have the money to invest in what we have to invest in to help underdeveloped countries not emit CO2 unless we take that money from somewhere, and the best place to take it is from the Pentagon budget. There's a third reason. The corporations produce jobs. Those jobs could be producing windmills. Those jobs could be working in rapid transport. Those jobs could be working on solar, but they're not. Why aren't corporations investing in jobs that could build what we really need? It's because corporations are interested in profits. It's not just that they're interested in profits, but they're, by law, required to maximize profits. Thus, a company like General Dynamics, which could profitably produce in our Bath shipyard barges, windmills, other things that we really need, produces destroyers not because they couldn't make a profit on windmills, not because they couldn't make a profit on barges, but because they can make more of a profit on destroyers. The profit margin is greater. Our government has to create jobs by taking money from the military budget and putting it into jobs that we need. It could be done. Oh, I thought you meant step closer to the mic. Jeez.
Thank you, Joseph. That was great. Appreciate it very much. Now we're going to hear from Leslie Manning.
So what part of thou shalt not kill do we still not get? Not $1, not one bullet, not one bomb in my name. So what part of war is not the answer do we not get? Not $1, not one bullet, not one bomb in my name. And Lord, love us all. What part of love thy neighbor and pray for those who would do you harm do we still not get? Not $1. Not one bullet. Not one bomb in my name. Portland, you spend $91 billion a year on war. When we have homeless veterans in our streets and children going to bed at night hungry in the richest empire in the history of the world. In a world where there is always money for bombs, but never enough for books and for bread, we must say together, not $1, not one bullet, not one bomb in our names. May it be so. Amen.
Thank you, Leslie, very much. And now Bruce Gagnon, who's the coordinator of the Global Network Against Weapons and, am I right? And Nuclear Power in Space. I often get it backwards, and I apologize. I did it right today. Bruce.
Hello, everyone. Beautiful weather today, right? 2 weekends ago, the Global Network held its 25th annual Space Organizing Conference in Huntsville, Alabama. And we stood on a Friday outside the gate of Redstone Arsenal for 90 minutes as thousands of workers drove out. We learned that in a community of 200,000 people, 1/3 of the local population are connected to the military-industrial complex. So basically 70,000 out of 200,000 people work for the war machine in Huntsville, Alabama. And there they specialize on space, building missiles for U.S. first strike attack on other countries. Missiles that today are being used to surround Russia and China. Our membership came from around the world. Places like Yorkshire, England, where the U.S. has 2 space warfare bases stationed in those communities. Places like Korea, where the United States is now deploying so-called missile defense systems that are key elements in first strike attack planning, and other places around the world. And in all these countries, there are people like you and I working daily to get U.S. bases shut down and to send U.S. troops home. U.S. now has 800 military bases around the world, costing you an arm and a leg and social progress. The National Society of Engineers says America is falling apart. Our roads, our bridges, our sewer and water systems, the human infrastructure of the nation is collapsing because of this imperial war machine that we have today. So our job here at home, hard enough as it is to reach the American people who appear resigned, who appear to be depressed about this imperial war machine that we have today. People don't think we can beat City Hall. Why even bother, they often say. But bother we must, because we're talking about the future generations. We're talking about the other life forms on this planet, the things that crawl, the things that fly, the things that swim, the plants. These are the life forms that we have to give voice to in this moment where the American people's hearts have become cold and dead. Martin Luther King worried about the soul of America, and surely we must worry about that soul today as we see the people resigned to this military-industrial complex. So thank you for being here, and thank you for continuing this important work. We must all continue on. We must convert the war machine that exists in our own community of Bath, Maine, where recently 9 of us were arrested for standing in front of the gate on the day of a christening where the blessings of the Prince of Peace were given to a new destroyer. God help us all. Thank you.
And we'll have another song from Kathleen McGee, and then C Winthrop will lead some storytelling right after the song.
There's an African proverb that says, if you can walk, you can dance. If you can talk, you can sing. And that's mostly true. So there's a part that goes like this. And I know you should probably come closer. And it goes like this. Oh, 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 oh. Try that with me, please. And oh, 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 oh. That's going to come up later. Sing. Sing at the top of your voice and love without fear in your heart. Feel like you still have a choice. If we all light up, we can scare away the dark. Wish our weekdays away, spend our weekends in bed. We drink ourselves stupid and work ourselves dead, and it's all because that's what Mom and Dad said we should do. We should run through the forest, we should swim in the streams, we should laugh, we should cry, we should love, we should dream, we should stare at the stars and not just at screens. You should hear what I'm saying and know what it means to sing. Sing at the top of your voice and love without fear in your heart. Feel like you still have a choice. If we all light up, we can scare away the dark. We wish we were happier, thinner and fitter. We wish we weren't losers and liars and quitters. We want something more, not just hashtag and Twitter. We want something real, not just hashtag and Twitter, and it's the meaning of life. Stream live on YouTube, but I bet Gangnam Style would still get more views. We're scared of drowning and flying and shooters. We're all slowly dying from freaking computers. So sing, sing at the top of your voice and love without fear in your heart. Feel like you still have a choice. If we all light up, we can scare away the dark. This is your part. And oh, 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 and oh, 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 oh. Sing at the top of your voice and love without fear in your heart. Feel like you still have a choice. If we all light up, we can scare away the dark.
Hi, I'm C Winthrop, and I'm just going to say briefly a story from my childhood. I was born in 1938 in Cambridge near Boston. By the time I was 4, 5, and 6, I was terrified by World War II. We, being close to the sea, had to do the blackout shades and the sirens and the everythings. I had heard from my big older sister about St. Joan. And every night, once I figured out how I could be fearless girl, I would get under the covers and I would imagine my parents would let me go to Europe to find the biggest white horse I could and something that would say truce, and ride out in the middle of the battlefield, which I thought was a football field. What did I know at age 4 or 5? And I would shout, "Stop it! Stop it! You're killing people, you're scaring children. Stop it!" When Fearless Girl was erected on International Women's Day in front of Wall Street, facing Raging Bull, I was that fearless girl, even though I could not go to Europe and stop World War II. Probably later in life, in addition to growing up totally allergic to bullets and bombs, totally allergic to war and violence, I was presented with this chart. It wasn't Maine at the time, it was New York State and then Vermont. And I was appalled to find out that even back then, 52 cents of every discretionary federal dollar goes to wars past, present, and future, taking care of veterans, waging war now, and planning dastardly weapons for the future. I couldn't believe it, and now it's up to 53%, I've been told. Good God, we have done ourselves in. At this point, I want to invite Ginny to come forward and speak briefly of why she's here. She's had a table the whole time, and she has her message.
My name is Ginny Schneider. I'm pleased to be an organizer of this event as coordinator of the Maine War Tax Resistance Resource Center. This was co-hosted with Peace Action and PeaceWorks. I'm thrilled to see the interest in war tax resistance and the peace movement growing in Maine. We have grown from 5 to 6 actions in 2015 to 18 actions in 2017, from Portland to Machias, with over 35 volunteers throughout the state. There's a movement afoot nationally to unify the peace movement and connect with other social justice movements. We are all connected in community. More insidious, however, we are all connected by the U.S. military budget. Our resources as a nation are being squandered on the military-industrial complex instead of paying for the good work that needs to be done to keep us healthy through clean air, clean water, housing, public transportation, and a social safety net that treats people with dignity. Diverse groups are joining hands across the nation to challenge the corporate takeover of government. We need to do the same in Maine. Together, we will be much stronger. If you would like to work across issues, please contact the Maine War Tax Resistance Resource Center at 558-5758. That's 558-5758. We look forward to working in the struggle with you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to say anything? Otherwise, I think, yes, come ahead, come ahead. Right into the mic.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I'm Cheetah Malcomson. I'm on the board of Peace Action Maine, and we've co-sponsored this rally today to protest the endless war that the U.S. government and military has waged against Muslim-majority countries for the last 16 years. Shall I say that again? 16 years. Okay. So, people have been concerned about two bombings recently. The U.S. bombing of Syria on April 6th and the U.S. bombing of Afghanistan on April 13th. But in 2016, the U.S. dropped at least 26,171 bombs on 7 Muslim-majority countries: Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Yemen, Pakistan, and Somalia. So from Bush to Obama to Trump, we still have endless war. And we've had no successes, so it's time to turn to diplomacy, as Noam Chomsky has argued and many others. Please join me in calling for peaceful means to be used, diplomacy, not war, in U.S. foreign policy. Thank you.
With that, I will bring this to a close. Thank those of you who came and carry on.
And oh,